Imagine the most shocking sight in all of history. A head separated from the body that keeps blinking and staring right at you. Sounds like a scene from a horror movie? But dozens of witnesses claim they saw this with their own eyes. Everyone has heard that after decapitation, a person can live for another 10 seconds. But is this actually true? Or is it just an urban legend passed down from generation to generation? Today we will break this question down to the smallest detail. We will examine history, science, and real cases, and answer the question, is this a myth or reality? But I warn you, what you will hear today may forever change your understanding of the human body, and at the end, a fact that will give you goosebumps. So watch until the end, you won't regret it. By the way, if you enjoy topics like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. This helps us create more investigations like this. And now let's start from the very beginning. Where did this creepy myth even come from? To understand the origins of this myth, we need to go back to the 18th century, France, the era of the Great Revolution. The guillotine was working non-stop. During the revolution, thousands of people were executed, and that's when the first testimonies started appearing. The most famous case is the story of Charlotte Corday. In 1793, she was executed for the murder of Jean-Paul Marat. The executioner lifted her head and slapped her cheek, and according to eyewitnesses, her face turned red with anger. Both cheeks turned red, and this was taken as an expression of indignation. This case shocked all of France. But Charlotte Corday was not the only one. There are many similar stories from the time of the French Revolution. They say that heads blinked, moved their eyes, and even tried to speak. But let's travel even further back in time. In ancient Rome, gladiators had their heads cut off in the arena, and spectators swore they saw the lips of the executed moving. In the Middle Ages, beheading was the primary method of execution, and legends about living heads were spread everywhere. There is even a legend about Saint Denis, the first bishop of Paris, who, according to legend, after being beheaded, picked up his own head and walked 6 kilometers with it. Of course, this is a religious legend, but it shows how deeply this idea is rooted in human consciousness. But let's return to more well-documented cases. In 1905, French doctor Gabriel Bourrieux conducted an experiment. He was present at the execution of a criminal named Henri Longueuil, and what he recorded became one of the most cited documents in the history of medicine. Bourrieux wrote that after the execution, he called Longueuil's name twice, and both times the executed man's eyes opened and focused on the doctor. Not just opened, but deliberately looked into his eyes. This lasted from 25 to 30 seconds after the execution. 30 seconds, not 10, but 30. Dr. Bourrieux's records became the foundation for a myth that lives on to this day. But wait, there are those who believe in this for very specific reasons. Arguments 4. Why do people believe you can live after decapitation? First argument. The brain does not die instantly. This is a medical fact. After blood supply stops, brain cells continue to live for some time. The brain contains enough oxygen for approximately 10 to 15 seconds. This means that, theoretically, consciousness could be preserved. Second argument. Experiments on animals. In 1928, Soviet scientist Sergei Brukhonenko created an artificial blood circulation device and connected a severed dog head to it. The result? The head reacted to light, sound, and even food. This was one of the most shocking experiments of the 20th century. Third argument. The case of Mike the Headless Chicken. Yes, you heard that right. A chicken named Mike. In 1945, farmer Lloyd Olson chopped off his head. But Mike didn't die. He continued to walk, try to peck, and crow. And not just a few seconds, Mike lived without a head for 18 months. The farmer fed him milk and grain through a dropper directly into the esophagus. The secret was simple. The axe didn't damage the chicken's brainstem, and the brainstem controls basic functions: breathing, heartbeat, reflexes. Fourth argument, clinical death research. People who have experienced clinical death report conscious experiences. Their brain was without oxygen for minutes, but they remember everything. If the brain can function without oxygen for several minutes, then why not 10 seconds after decapitation? Fifth argument, modern experiments on rats. In 2013, scientists from the University of Michigan discovered a surge of brain activity in rats after cardiac arrest. The brain literally exploded with activity at the moment of dying. Some scientists believe this could explain near-death experiences. Sixth argument, 2019 experiments with pig brains. Scientists from Yale University restored cellular activity in a pig brain 4 hours after death. 4 hours! This overturned our understanding of brain death. Seventh argument, the story of an anesthesiologist from the Netherlands. Dr. Pim van Lommel studied 344 cases of clinical death. 18% of them reported conscious experiences while their brain was shut down. This suggests that consciousness can exist even without without an active brain. Impressive arguments, aren't they? But don't jump to conclusions, because science says something entirely different. Arguments against what science actually says. First counter-argument, instant loss of blood pressure. During decapitation, blood pressure in the brain drops to 0 instantly. This is not the same as cardiac arrest, where blood remains in the vessels. During decapitation, blood literally pours out of the open vessels. The brain is left without blood almost immediately. Second counter-argument. Loss of consciousness occurs within 2 to 3 seconds. Neurosurgeons confirm. With a sudden drop in blood pressure, a person loses consciousness almost instantly. Remember, when you stand up quickly and your vision goes dark, that's orthostatic hypotension, a slight drop in pressure. Now imagine a complete loss of pressure. Instant shutdown. Third counter-argument. What witnesses saw were reflexes, not consciousness. Blinking, lip movement, even eye movement. All of this can be the result of residual nerve activity, like a frog leg that twitches from an electric current. Is the leg alive? No, it's just an electrical impulse. Fourth counter-argument. Burio's experiment was not scientific. He had no control group, no measuring instruments. He was alone, and recorded what he saw subjectively. In science, subjective observations of one person are not evidence. Fifth counter-argument. Fighter pilots know the answer. During high G-forces, blood drains away from the pilot's brain, and loss of consciousness occurs within 3 to 5 seconds. But note, the blood stays in the body, it just redistributes. But during decapitation, blood completely leaves the brain. This means loss of consciousness during decapitation is even faster, within 2 to 3 seconds. Sixth counterargument, the 2011 rat experiment. Dutch scientists recorded the electrical activity of rat brains after decapitation. Result, conscious activity disappeared after 3.7 seconds. Not after 10 seconds, not after 30, after 3.7 seconds. Seventh counterargument, pain shock. Decapitation is a horrific trauma. The body instantly goes into shock. Pain shock by itself causes loss of consciousness. Even a simple bone fracture can cause fainting, let alone a trauma of this magnitude. Eighth counterargument. Mike's case is an exception to the rule. Mike's brainstem was preserved. In humans during decapitation, it's not. Chicken anatomy is completely different from human anatomy. A chicken's brain is positioned differently, and it can accidentally be left intact when the head is cut off. With humans, this is impossible. The brainstem is inside the skull. Ninth counterargument. Scientific consensus. The vast majority of neurologists believe that conscious life after decapitation is impossible. At most, there can be 2 to 3 seconds of reflex activity, without consciousness. So it's time to deliver the verdict. Can you consciously live 10 seconds without a head? The answer, most likely a myth, but with an important caveat. 10 seconds of conscious life? No, that's a myth. But 2 to 3 seconds of reflex activity? That is reality. Eyes can reflexively move, muscles can contract, but this is not life. This is dying. The difference between a reflex and consciousness is the difference between a machine and a person. Witnesses of the French Revolution saw reflexes, but interpreted them as conscious actions, because the human brain tends to see life even where there is none. This is called pareidolia, our brain's tendency to find familiar patterns. Conclusion: 10 seconds of conscious life without a head is a myth. But wait, we promised you a bonus fact that will give you goosebumps. In 2021, scientists made a discovery that changed everything. They recorded the brain activity of a dying patient using EEG. This was the first time in history that brain activity was recorded at the moment of a person's actual death. And do you know what they discovered? For 30 seconds before and after the heart stopped, the brain generated gamma waves. Gamma waves are a type of brain activity associated with consciousness, memory, and dreams. This means that at the moment of death, the brain may be replaying your entire life, your whole life flashing before your eyes. It's not a metaphor. It could be literal reality. The brain doesn't die instantly. It puts on a farewell show. And this is perhaps the most eerie and beautiful thought at the same time. We don't just die. Our brain says goodbye to us. If you enjoyed this investigation, hit the like button and subscribe. Write in the comments which myth to investigate next, and we'll see you in the next episode. Myth or reality?